everyone, and thank you for tuning into the North Main Minute. I'm Joshua Doby. A big item, for all the obvious reasons, on our radar screen here at North Main Financial Group when it comes to the financial process has to do with the broad idea of residential housing, or our primary residences. And I say that for the context of this particular thought when we're looking at it from a planning standpoint, and that we're in a pretty unique kind of time when it comes to residential housing. A couple of big factors that are out there. One, interest rates on new mortgages have risen dramatically here in the last couple of years. Those mortgages that used to start with numbers like 2 and 3, those are gone. New mortgages now start with numbers like 6 and 7. So it's an entirely new universe when you're looking at the new mortgage market, which has created this interesting dynamic, if you will. All these folks, and I'm talking about by the millions, who have mortgages that start with numbers like 2 and 3, are in a space now where it's very difficult, if not impossible, to sell that home to move into another home with a mortgage that starts with a number like 6 or 7, because they simply can't afford it from a budget standpoint. So what that has created, at least in part, is a very limited, very small inventory on a relative basis of homes which are for sale. For example, 2023, just by the number of transactions, we had the fewest number of real estate transactions in 2023 that we've had in the last 40 years. In part, I can't say it completely, rarely are things binary when it comes to things that are this large, but at least in part due to the fact that folks with smaller mortgages didn't want to give them up in the interest of mortgages with higher interest rates associated with them. So that's very, very important to keep in mind, but what that has also produced, point number 2, is that prices have stayed relatively elevated. And the reason why is because the inventory is still quite tight or still low. So even though we have higher interest rates, prices really have not felt that negativity or that limitation because of high interest rates because we have such a small inventory. So for the folks who are looking to buy or have the ability to be able to move into those new homes, even in a higher interest rate environment, they're finding low inventory and high prices. So a very interesting dynamic there. Third big dynamic when it comes to residential housing, with which we're having discussions with folks all the time, has to do with the fact that rents still are at an elevated level, especially if you're anywhere close to our urban areas around the country. They may be peaking. We're starting to see just scattered instances of rents starting to cool off and level off a little bit. But generally speaking, rents have risen dramatically here over the last several years, not just here, but then geographically around the country. So it's created this dynamic, some would call it even a dilemma with regards to residential housing about how do folks move? Meaning, how are they going to be able to move out of a high rent scenario but have to take on a high interest rate mortgage to be able to do that? It's almost created a little bit of a logjam, if you will, metaphorically speaking, that has slowed down the residential transaction market. Doesn't mean prices are coming down. We haven't seen that very much yet, but it does mean the number of transactions are definitely fewer than what they have been here over the last several years. A lot of dynamics in play there. We're sharing that really with you from an informational standpoint so that A, you're aware, but then B, that you make decisions based upon the right reasons. Because anytime you're looking at making a change in your residential housing situation, that's probably one of the largest, if not the single largest, financial transaction of your lives. And that's important. That's important that you make decisions for the right reasons. If you'd like to reach out to us at North Main Financial Group, perhaps talk through some scenarios. Are you thinking about moving? You thinking about selling? Maybe a great time to sell. What are the buy-side characteristics, though? Do those things balance, or do you get to a more advantageous space in looking at that? We'd love to chat with you, northmainfinancial.com.